Well, thank you for showing us around the Stadium of Light, Nial. Just
You're
before
welcome.
we go down onto the pitch, 50p of every DVD that will be sold is going to go to the Sunderland charity, the foundation charity. I know it's something that's quite important to you as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on the board of the foundation. It's an incredible organisation. It's a maverick organisation, is the term I use, because it's gone much further than the foundations that were founded by the football clubs throughout Britain. It's gone off and done so much more and broken all the barriers, and it reaches out to the whole city. Hundreds of thousands of children benefit from it here in Sunderland. So I'd be very keen to promote, and indeed as Drummondville are well aware of, and the football club, we've got to protect the foundation and enhance it and push it forward. So we're delighted, that they'll receive some money as a result of this DVD as well. So everybody shares in the success, but I'd say they'd be the most important benefactors of any success we would have.
Picture of your playing debut. Let's go downstairs and talk about your managerial
Thank you very much, Simon.
So we'll start this bit, Nial. Obviously, first 4-5 games, Nial the manager,
Yeah.
and it didn't quite go according to plan, did it?
Not really, but I think it was very useful because if ever a chairman needed to know the problems that the club had, I was able to see it firsthand. I inherited a losing dressing room. A lot of guys feeling very sorry for themselves. Some that were never going to come out of it and never going to reach their full potential at the club, and knew there and then that they had to move on. It was a bit frantic. We'd love to have had them for 6 or 8 weeks and actually prepared them for a season. We're getting them sort of a week before. Getting 3 games in 6 days and losing all 3 games when we should have won them, it was one of those things. It was always, to keep the seat open for somebody who we felt would be worthy of Drummondville's intentions. And we thought we had Roy earlier on this summer. Then it wasn't transpiring that way, and then very quickly, because of the poor manager, it became apparent that we needed him double quick, and he agreed to come, which was great. So a great sort of outcome of it was, if Roy ever said things are bad here, I go, Roy, I know. You don't have to tell the chairman things were bad, but that's the way it was. I mean, looking back, people talk about, oh, you did this, you did that, but the club was missing a spark, and Roy was that spark. I mean, Roy came to the last game here, the TV cameras were on us, a lot of pressure, people were talking about us being chumps, and West Brom, who were flying high, we came and played them off the pitch here, and it's amazing, like spirit, what it can do when it turns around and some little things click into shape. Most of that team who played against West Brom are gone now, but they did brilliant for me on that day, and they just showed, when the spirit is right, when the people are behind them, how good things are, and that was all generated by the fact that people saw Roy coming and saw that there was a bit of belief in the air, and that's exactly what I knew before I came in. So people will look at it and take a short, narrow-minded view. You did this wrong or that wrong, but it was the right thing to do.
You're too tall for me now, so we'll go and sit down. During the summer when we spoke, you were saying how you're only sort of looking after the team. What was the point where you thought, actually, I'm going to have to be the manager here?
We had a meeting in Dublin the afternoon of the Shelbourne game when we played a pre-season friendly, and we were without a manager. We were in a kind of almost a no turning back situation with the takeover. And we had a meeting and said, one of the things we knew is that a lot will be expected of Drummondville. The first statement we make has to be a very big one and a very bold one for the people to understand the commitment and the determination to get it right here. Therefore, the names that were popping up on everybody's lips that we felt weren't right and didn't sort of make that big impact, we knew we couldn't give that to. And as I say, no point in holding back now. Before Aston Villa came in for Martin O'Neill, we did try for Martin once we knew Roy's position, and so we were looking at that calibre of name, and basically the feeling was that I would go in there and buy ourselves a little bit of time. I mean, I would like to have won a few matches and to be truthful and hand over the reins in a better way than it was, but at the same time, I think that the bigger picture was more important, and I suppose literally from that day, we played Shelbourne. That was the day really when we felt as a group, that we can't give this thing away. So it was a temporary base. Now, if somebody had to come on by the end of the week, if Roy had to come on by the end of the week, for instance, then I would have walked away then. It was not. I suddenly didn't see myself as the next Jose Mourinho or anything like that. But it was important that we got a hold of the situation and bought a bit of time. I have to say it was useful in understanding just how how deteriorated the club had become. You know, you can see things from the books, you can see things from the empty seats, you know, you can see things from the newspapers, you can see things, you can hear things from people. But when you're actually in there in the dressing room and you see the losing mentality that was rampant, it actually became useful. And I'm glad, you know, that it took the path it did, because I think, you know, Roy is a young manager with no signings. You know, had he gone in, you know, people would have pinned or associated him perhaps with the people that were in the dressing room at the start of that month. Whereas when he came in 4 weeks later I think it was, and we got him as 6 players, then he sort of hit the ground running, and it brought an impetus to the club. You know, I think on deadline day we were on the TV signing players. Somebody said they were coming out like pups, you know. So that was great. So he was able to start with away from that image of the team that had the losing mentality. So it was the right thing to do. Looking back, take a bit of stick here and there. You know, 1 or 2 people, I hear them on Sky. But again, they'd be a little bit ignorant to the situation, and you know, that's fine. You just go, that's okay, guys. You know, there was a job to be done, and we did it the best way we could.
You did make a couple of decent signings yourself, though. Let's not forget Darren Ward, who I think you picked up for absolutely nothing.
Yeah, well, funny enough, Darren came in. Bobby and I spoke about Darren. He had been around a few clubs. He'd been a very good pro. Darren's one was, you know, was also to come in and to assist, you know, the young talent that we had there, Ben Anik. You know, we had lots of people talking about him and saying he was going to be this, you know, and he was going to be that, and we felt Darren would be the steady pair of hands that would work with them and show him the right way, you know, about being a pro and about, you know, sort of having that pro feeling about yourself as a person, as a player. And we felt Darren would be very useful, and of course within months Darren was that useful. He ended up taking Ben's place, and it's been brilliant. But it just shows you know, there's a guy who was searching for a club. We bought him because we weren't allowed to spend money. Otherwise, I think we might have paid him money for a goalkeeper somewhere. And yet, lo and behold, he comes in and he's been a star for us. I mean, that sums up football, you know. And we could have wasted millions on another goalkeeper who wouldn't have had the same impact. And like Ben has gone on to things now. He's gone down to London to Spurs, and football changes like that. And we have a guy in there, I think, whose very spirit epitomises everything we wanted at the club. And of course, he was one, that you'd take credit for. But I think Bobby Saxton deserves the credit there. There was 1 or 2 names popping around, and it was Bobby who was adamant that Darren would do what he did. You know, and then obviously by the time we signed Tobias, we'd had a little bit more flexibility from the banks. Even though the takeover wasn't complete, there was certain guarantees in place, and we were eventually allowed to spend a few bob. And we had a look at a couple of players overseas, and he was one that had caught our eye a couple of times. Bobby went out to see him. We had good reports, and I have to say we're delighted. And at that point, you know, Roy was aware. You know, I had spoken to Roy about various players we were looking at, and he was the one. He said, had good reports about him. So we were happy to proceed with Tobias, and he's been smashing. He scored some very important goals for us. Works very hard for the team. He's a young lad. He also came. What people don't realise, well, he came to this club having completed a full season. So instead of getting his break, he was thrown into a full season here, and I think he dipped, but through fitness and tiredness. But then once he got himself going, and the momentum of the club started to rise, I think he did too, and he's done very, very well, you know.
While we're in the management seat, then I'm going to have to mention Bury to you, which was as dark a night as I can remember in some time, and it was after the game. I don't know how rude this is when I say it, but I thought you'd lost the plot there for a while. You were very passionate on the pitch. Can you remember much about the post match as well?
Well, I can remember the biggest thing that I remember from that night is, you know, we'd spend 4 days training. We were given Arnau, who played very well when he came on sub against Southend. We were given him a free role. Everybody who got the ball was to give it to Arnau, and we just said to him, Arnau, you go and be the man. You've no defensive responsibilities. We're going to play everything through you. People that were to time their runs off him. Everything was related to Arnau. He was our man on the night, and we, you know, G'd him up, got him going, and I hadn't even sat down in my seat, and he's walking towards the dugout, you know, and my first instinct was he must be wanting to go to the toilet or something. And Louise, the PR guy, said, no, he's after being sent off. And I went, oh, well, there you go. Somebody up there is telling me not to be a manager, you know. But at that point, you know, I was pretty certain Roy was over the line, and we had a few details to work out. And I was happy that in the aftermath, where people were angry and people frustrated and the club was going nowhere in their eyes, that there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. So I did sort of let a cat out of the bag, not the entire thing, but I did say, you know, we had a world-class name to come to the football club in the next few days, and that was the key then for people to say, oh well, who could it be? It won't be anybody good. And they were waiting for a big fall. And then when Roy was announced, I think it took everybody by surprise. And you had the one or two who doubters, and I've some lovely letters there from people. But in fairness, one or two have written back and apologised for the letters they sent in, which is nice. People realise that we've got somebody who's tailor-made for the job, and whose professional instincts and desire to win were just exactly what this club needed. Roy Keane holds everything that this club didn't have against Bury.
So Nial, the chairman stroke manager, was just purely Nial the chairman there.
Yeah.
Can we go up to your boardroom and have a chat about Nial the chairman?
It's the club's boardroom, it's not
That's
my
what
boardroom.
I meant, obviously.
Yes, you're more than welcome.
Thank you. Come on then, lead on.
Okay.
So here we are then, in the spectacular boardroom. Effectively, you're the gaffer here now as well.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building, there's no doubt about that. But then lots of what Bob Murray did here was fantastic. The real beauty of this football club and coming in when we did, as an investment group, was everything was in place for us bar the football. This boardroom probably typifies the rest of the stadium really. It's just an incredible structure. And built, at a time when, people were losing the run themselves, spending ridiculous money on stadia throughout the country. And, Bob Murray did an amazing job here. He put a fantastic system in place whereby the stadium also grew very quickly. We found another 7,000 seats quite easily one summer. The training ground matches, the training ground is as good, if not better, than the stadium. And we're really, it's a world-class facility, it's a world-class football club in terms of the numbers we can attract to the games. And really what we had to do is just try and find a team to match and to go into that. And that's great, knowing that we don't have the problems other people who get involved in football clubs have. You read about them all the time, they just spend 200 million in a stadium, 300 million in a stadium. Drummondville have had to do nothing like that. We just have to get the football right, and that's a testament to Bob Murray.
So there you were, you'd retired from football, your back had been giving you too much jip, you were playing the odd game of golf, you were certainly enjoying the horses, and Almeida was doing very well for you as well. What was the point where you thought, I'm going back to Sunderland?
Well, it was a process really that started, naturally, I kept a close eye on things here, and there were certain friends of mine that would ring all the time and tell me how the games were going, what was happening. They were close to the scene, and so I kept a close eye on things and saw plenty of games when I was with Sky as well. I did a bit of work with Sky at that time. And I was invited, I suppose the catalyst of this was I was invited onto the foundation board by Bob Murray last February, 12 months. And towards the end of February, we had a meeting in London, my first meeting with the other members of the board. And when chatting to Bob afterwards, he was very low, depressed. The season that the club were having. And I knew there was somebody, a friend of mine, who I felt might be able to help out, maybe inject a few funds in, maybe to get the thing going again in the summer. And I kind of got the impression that if I got him on board, he might be a help to the club, and I let it run for another little while, and of course the results got worse and it became a less and less attractive proposition. And then out of nowhere, Bob rang to say if you can get somebody to take the whole club. And that was probably around about March time, the middle of March. And that's when I went to Cheltenham, and again, most years you go there for the horses and for the drink and for everything else, but I had a job to do that, and that was to assemble a group of people, because they were all the catchment people that I needed were all at Cheltenham, and it was the first meeting of the potential new owners, and the group varied from that point, and there was lots of twists and turns, but there was a little bit of momentum in place, and we fought then after that into April, May, June, July, and certain days were good, certain days were bad, and lo and behold, we found ourselves then with the keys to the stadium, as it were, and it's been a hell of a journey, a hell of a year. I think the hardest thing really, from a personal point of view, is having spent sort of March, April, May, June, and the guts of July, doing this thing day in, day out, living with it, travelling all over, trying to understand the whole thing. We got the gig, if you like, and the next day I was in work, so it was just having gone, it was really was, from the frying pan into the fire, because you felt, really at that stage I probably needed a 4-week rest, and suddenly I was at the next day facing cameras and trying to pick teams to play matches, so it was a tough thing to do. But it was the right thing to do ultimately in the end, because we realised the potential in the club, and we knew that I suppose if you get this place G'd up, it's capable of going really, really far as a football club, and that's the whole key why we were here. We weren't here to try and invent something. We were really just trying here to realise the potential.
Well, I was going to ask you that. You had all this, seemed like a lovely life anyway across an island. Why would you risk all that?
I don't know. I suppose I was very grateful to Sky. I did a lot of TV work and watching football, but it's nowhere near the same as being involved in the coalface of the game. And this job that I have now is nowhere near the same as playing. Playing is everything. Playing, scoring, celebrating with the crowd. Every footballer in the world has an ego, and don't let any of them tell you any different. And when you score a goal and you're running and crowd are jumping on top of you and the back of your back, it is a fantastic feeling, and that's hard to recreate. But with things gone well, even though I have no say in the football and I don't have anything to do with the football, for some reason they're doing that to me now and patting me on the back thinking that I have. So it's different, I feel it feels awkward in many ways having played the game, but I think there's a huge advantage really. I just felt that I would have an advantage. What I would lack in experience in terms of the business module that you should have probably had for 20 years before you come to a football club, as most chairmen do. I think what I lacked in that, and indeed what Roy lacked in experience, I think by what we've seen from the epicentre of the game for the last 20 years, we felt we'd do things a little bit different, and that what we lacked in experience we would make up for in sort of inside knowledge, almost, for want of a better word, in how the game makes mistakes, how clubs have made mistakes, how agents, for instance, had gained so much control, and how best they could be contained and not made to hold clubs to fortune. Lots of little things that we felt as a pair, I suppose, in those initial few weeks, that if we drove on and did things our way, and we're allowed to do things our way, which we are, that we'd make a little bit of hay. And I'm delighted, one of the most pleasing things for me is, when people say, you don't get involved in the football, why not? And I go, because it's the right thing to do, and perhaps maybe with the success we've had this year, and if there's more success to come, maybe in time, other chairmen will look back and say, yeah, maybe the trust you have in a manager is everything. And I think that's the great thing that's here in the football club. I have a process now to try and help attract the type of players Roy wants. But the beauty for me is I have no say in who they are. I don't even want to speculate who they are. Great, just give me the names, I'll go and do the job. And this is the way the whole thing works. And I dare say, in the long run, I think it'll prove very, very valuable to the club.
We say long run. Does Drummondville have a big picture that it's aiming towards?
Well, you can't. You see, football is so unpredictable. You can't, pick off target and say one of this, then we'll do that, because you can drop very quickly in football, as you know. I mean, it just takes a bad 2 or 3 weeks and all hell breaks loose. So I think really Drummondville's plan, and indeed, this would be my plan that Drummondville have agreed with, would be to put the structures in place here that makes the club a very, very strong platform throughout the whole systems that operate in the club, all the structures that operate behind the scenes, that they're all done to a professional level that raises the bar for every aspect of the club. And we feel with that, the club will be a really healthy football club. Now, it's very hard to say how long Drummondville will last, how long this puff of steam is going to keep the thing going. Football is a tough business, as you know, but we feel there's certainly the initial 5-year approach that we had was the correct amount of time. We felt it would take us longer than it has to get back in the Premiership. To be fair, I think Roy has done an extraordinary job on the players. I mean, and the coaching staff, Tony and Nial, and that we're just bowled over by how good they are. And that's great. That gives us sort of added impetus that that the thing is happening. Okay, a little bit quick in some respects, but it's fantastic for the football club, because then suddenly all that debt and stuff like that, it looks a little bit easier to handle now, and other avenues open up and other structures come in place. So I suppose over the next few years, I mean, really the idea for this football club is to be regarded as a proper Premiership club. Now, what that means and where it'll lead to, I don't know, but that's about the only target that I could say would be fitting for us then, having looked back in 4 or 5 years' time and say, yeah, okay, now we can positively say we did something. Fella's banging again.
It is lovely, this boardroom, but they're notoriously stuffy places, football boardrooms. I can't imagine for a second you lot coming in here and maintaining that air of stuffiness. Has there been one or two collars loosened?
Well, yeah. I mean, we've had music in here. We've had live music with a comedian. We needed one day. We were that bad, but we've a kind of a relaxed policy here. I mean, my view is that this is the football club, i.e. This is another part of the club to be shared, and we invite local dignitaries in here. We have politicians who get in everywhere, as you know. But we also have, we invite the mascots in and their parents, and we try and make it as open and relaxed as possible. I think, the group of guys that I have behind them certainly they're fun-loving, sporting people. They don't want stuffiness, and they want to bring their friends in, and we've lots of other reasons to have people in here. We would have sort of potential sponsors, stuff like that. And we kind of say, look here, come and have a good time. We do great food here. We have the best chef in the northeast of England. We've got a day here for people that's very special. But then we have it in other parts of the ground too. I mean, one of the big things, when I sat down and looked at how we move things forward off the field, and people saying, oh, it's great, you'll get lots of people from Ireland, they'll come to the game and they'll buy tickets, this, that, and the other. But then I kind of looked at other clubs and did a bit of research, and one of the things I found was, that we're starting off, we're not Manchester United, we're not Celtic in terms of who've had thousands and thousands come week in, week out from all over the world to their matches. So we're at a very low starting point. So how do we try and build that up? The important thing is that we have to give them a better time than they would have at Old Trafford or Celtic. And if we can match that on the pitch, then we have a chance. So again, that will be another 4 or 5 year plan. We're not here this year trying to make a load of money out of people visiting from either Ireland, Scotland, Scandinavia, or whatever. But we hope to in 4 or 5 years' time, by virtue of the fact that we've a great product here. So we have to send people home happy. So if we have visitors over from Ireland, we want them to go home. We don't want it to make a fortune out there now. We want them to go home and spread the message that it was a great place to come. Much better day out than Old Trafford or Celtic. But that's what we have to aim. That's our side of the business now. If we can match our side of things with what Roy is doing, then the club has a chance. And they're the structures and systems that people won't see or won't recognise, but that ultimately will help lead to a bigger football club.
Well, obviously the place where they have the most fun is out on the pitch, but we've been there, so probably the second most fun place is the sports bar.
Yeah.
Shall we
go
go
down and have a look? Why not?
Come on then.
Okay.
Off we go.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, come on, we'll get a taxi.
Come on.
You're paying, as usual.
Oh, no. Got caught once.
Niall, you know obviously how generous I am, and I would normally buy you a drink at this point, but the bar seems closed. I've tried to pour one and I can't even get one out the tap.
You've got away with it again.
I have, yes. Money's still in pocket. But the fans, the whole match day experience, I know is something that's very close to your heart and something that's very important to you, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the spirit of the club is epitomised by the fans, and we are nothing without them. That's why, I think a lot of the Drummondville investors and myself, we make it a point of coming down to bars like this during the day. We're kind of happy to mingle, to mix, and to get a feel, in the good times as well as the bad. There would have been a few games early on in the season when the people mightn't have been as pleased as we'd have hoped. But at the same time, I think it's important just to kind of get the vibes and see where everything is at. Say, sitting up in the boardroom cocooned. You'd miss out, and this is a great place. We've several more ideas for places like this in time for next season. But people want more, I think, now than just come and get in the train, walk on a big long walk to your stadium, sit in a seat and walk home. I think people look for more nowadays. That's the way it's gone, and so we hope to provide that. And we need to increase the experience that people have. It's a very competitive world. Saturday afternoons are tough to get everybody believing and to come back, but when they do, we also like it to make it pretty special for them. So there's normally bands playing here in the evening time after games, and we'd have I suppose as near to sort of a feel-good factor as possible. And obviously it all depends on what happens out on the pitch, but we like people to come away thinking that's my routine. I want to go to that bar after the game. I want to stay for a couple of hours. We're not here thinking we want people 7 days a week, far from it. But at the same time, we've lots of nice facilities. We've a lovely restaurant in Tonau. As a result of our recent fire, we're obviously replacing our old director's suite, as it was called, which would lead the sort of notion back to the stuffy or whatever. But we're now going to open a brasserie. and hopefully have it open a few nights a week, intimate setting for people to come and have meals and stuff. Just changing, following the industry, changing, and trying to open the club up to the people, because that's what it's all about.
And you said about this being a different experience from, say, Celtic Park or Old Trafford.
Well, we hope someday to get there.
Yeah, well, I mean, talking about this sports bar, the difference being that as soon as you come in through that door, you can just as easily brush shoulders with yourself or any of the Drummondville guys, or the former players like Gary Rowell.
Absolutely, yeah.
And modern players.
Yeah.
It's something for everyone.
Well, that's right. Well, we made a decision, or certainly our board made a decision, that every ex-Sunderland player is entitled to come and bring his partner or whatever to any game while he's still alive, and with that we open up the facilities to them, and they pop in around. It's great, it's great to see the 73 heroes here all the time, and there's a lovely feeling about the place. But I suppose Sunderland's a down-to-earth football club. Sunderland people are down to earth, and I don't think stuffiness works in the northeast somehow or another, and that's great, because Irish people are the exact same. So there's a lovely fit from the investors' point of view, and from my point of view. This is our club. These are the people who support it. These are the people who represented the club. Great players, as you said, in the past, and I think. Once they haven't got too much beer in them and they don't mob them too much, I've seen the likes of Bobby Kerr getting lifted up.
It's easy to do. It's tiny.
Well, it is, yeah, I suppose. But that's in some ways it's flattering. But in general, though, I think people are pleased to see everybody around the place, and just spoke early on in the year about connecting back again. And I think areas like this after games and down around the other suites and the other box room bars and the Black Cat's bar and the various box holders things that we have. I think it's important that we're seen around there, that we're not just up there in the rich seats, as John Lennon would say. No, jangling your jewellery. Correct. Yeah. No, we're happy that there's a nice mix and a nice connection between the people, the club, the people who run the club, the players. I mean, the players have done brilliant for me over the years as well. We, trying to get all this going and getting the people to believe again. We'd corporate nights, we'd nights for ex-box holders who wouldn't renew their box, and we got them all back in, and the players and Roy came along to several of them, and they showed a spirit for the club that I think was probably missing, or people felt was missing locally, and that's all connecting back together again, and it's a very important part of the overall plan.
Just finally then, it's been one heck of a 12 months, just slightly more, I guess, if we go back to that Cheltenham meeting as well. How was it for you?
It's exhilarating. It's been thrilling at times. It's been depressing early on in the season. It's been incredibly, I suppose, what's the word I'm looking for? It's been all or nothing. Every week you kind of feel and say, this game, everything we've done all week depends on this game. And if anything, the big lesson I've learned in the year would be, you cannot prepare enough for the team. You cannot give the team enough in terms of preparing them to get them right for a Saturday, because we can put in brilliant structures, we can put in fantastic bars, we can put in sofas for the people to watch the game from, and we can spend fortunes. But the team don't play on a Saturday, it's all a waste of time. So I suppose, as exhilarating as it's been, and it's as tough as it's been in many ways, the big thing that comes out of it for me, rather than sitting and everybody patting themselves on the back, the big thing that comes out of me is that we learn lessons from it, and the big lesson for me this season, it's all about the team.
Not a bad magic carpet ride, eh?
Well, I didn't actually say that. What I said was, when I was here before, it was like being on a magic carpet, because the whole thing lifted. But then, fair play to the media, they turned it around and said, "Come on my magic carpet." So that was something that.
So just for the record,
I'd regret. No, it's a whatever you want to call it. It was a bit of a roller coaster, I suppose, looking back at the year. But we reached the heights where we wanted to, and. Exceptional, but everybody played their part. I must stress that. As much as it's all about the team can only operate if everybody's playing their part, and all the structures allow for that. And that's the great thing, that this football club knows from now on. I said earlier, Bob Murray brought the stadium, brought the training ground. We have to get the team right, and if everybody keeps pulling their weight, going the right direction, raising the standards, all the time in every department, then all that will transcend down to the team. The team will then be given, Roy and the coaching staff will be given they'll be given the finances, they'll be given the structures, to keep the thing going and to move and keep it improving. And one little bit of the jigsaw falls out of place, then other things start to fall with it. So it's just keeping a good stock of the situation, not getting carried away, and we'll keep our eye on the ball. I think that's the big thing as well going forward.
Well, on behalf of everybody that's paid good money to watch this DVD, thanks very much.
Not at all, thank you.
Thanks for bringing the
Great.
good times back to
Well,
Sunderland.
hopefully there's lots more to come, you know. I think we've always got to be, I mean, I've said before, 6 months ahead, you know, or 12 if you can, but we'll see how it goes for everybody else. But we're busy away working on the next 6 12.